did you guys have a chance to print out the note? Okay, it'll be easier if you have the note. Okay, you got it. That's good. So for 5.9, we are talking about solving equation by factoring, which is one of the important topics, right? You need to solve equation, and a lot of time you solve that by factoring. Okay, but first, let's discover this property. So we know that any quantity times 0, we get 0, right? So what happens if A times B equals 0? So what can we conclude about A or B? If this two factor, A and B multiplied equals 0, then what can we say about A or B?
One of them is 0.
Yeah, one of them has to be 0, right? So maybe A is equal to 0, or B is equal to 0, or both of them equal to 0, right? So this is an inclusive OR. That means it could be both, okay? So A will be equal to 0, okay? Or B equal to 0, okay? So this is called the zero factor property. So when you multiply factors and the product is equal to 0, then you can conclude that at least one of the factor is equal to 0. So it's kind of like maybe in the crime scene, right? So there are only two suspects in the scene, right? So maybe this guy did it, or this guy did it, or this guy did it, or maybe all of them did it, right? So one of them have done it, okay? Okay, so one of them has to be 0. Okay, now we're going to use this zero factor property to solve quadratic equation. So what do we mean quadratic equation? So quadratic equation is equation that can be written in this form: ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0, where a, b, c's are real numbers and a not equal to 0. Because in order to have this x squared here, a cannot equal 0, okay? So once you actually search it up to say, where did this name come from? Quad, Q-U-A-D over here, has something to do with the square, okay? So think about quadratic equation is equation of degree 2. So you have this x squared over here, okay? Okay, so degree 2 equation, quadratic equation, okay? Now let's solve this quadratic equation over here. So we want to make use, so right now it's degree 2, right? Okay, we're going to use a zero factor property to solve it, okay? So first we're going to factor this, okay? So we can, if I can factor that into product, then I can use a zero factor property. So how do you factor this? This one has 3 terms. It's in the form of x squared and then x and then number. So what kind of method to factor? Do you guys remember?
Trial and error.
Try error, yes, very good. So we're going to factor this as x times x. Okay, think about two numbers, multiply to get 6 and sum up to 5. So what are the two numbers? 2 and 3, right? Okay, so will be, so plus 2 and then plus 3, okay, to get to this. Okay, now by the zero factor property, so if they multiply equal to 0, then one of the factor have to be equal to 0, okay? So we'll have either this equal to 0 or this equal to 0. So one of them had done it, right? So either this guy did it or this guy did it, okay? So if this factor here did it, then we have x plus 2 equal to 0. So if the other factor did it, then we have x plus 3 equal to 0, okay? Now notice that by using the zero factor property, I break this equation of degree 2, a quadratic equation, into two equations of degree 1. You see the exponent on x here is first power. So the zero factor property is helping you to break this equation into simple equation of lower degree. Okay, so break it down into lower degree 2 to degree 1. Okay, now after that, you can solve this two equations separately, right? So now we can just subtract 2 on both sides. So x equal to -2. And over here, if you solve for x here, x is equal to -3, right? So you have two solutions, okay? So we have, so the two solution over here are -3, comma, -2. We can put that in a set notation. So a pair of curly braces. So this is the solution set, consists of these two numbers, okay? Notice that you have two solutions, okay? That correspond to the degree of this equation. This is degree 2, you get two solutions, okay? Okay, the second one, I would ask you guys to try to solve this by using the zero factor property. First, you factor that and use the zero factor property. So I let you guys try that for maybe 3 minutes, okay? I share that. Okay, let's put this together, okay? So first, we're going to factor this. Okay, first, in order to use the zero factor property, notice that this side, the other side over here has to be 0 in order to use the zero factor property. So we'll have this 2 multiplied to be 0, then one of the factor equals 0. So it's important to have a 0 on the other side equation, okay? So over here, let's factor this. Because this is in the form, this trinomial is in the form x squared x and number. So factor that by trying error, right? So remember we went over the way that I taught you was the times rate, right? So let's try the try error the way that we do, okay? So we factor the 2 here, we can try 2 times 1. And how would you like to factor this 5 over here? It's a prime number, so we can try
1 and 5.
1 times 5. Yeah, 1 times 5. Okay. And then cross multiply it. So 2 times 5 make 10. 1 times 1 make 1. And they sum up to this 11 in the middle. So I know I got the right combination. So the way that we read this, when we read this, we put back the x. So this is 2x plus 1, okay, horizontally. So this is 2x plus 1. And then the other one is 1x plus 5. Okay. And they multiply equal 0. So what happened over here is the zero factor property says that either this factor did it or this factor did it if they multiply equal 0. Okay. So if the first factor, 2x plus 1 equal to 0, then we can solve for x here. Then we get subtract 1 on both sides. We get 2x equal to -1. And what does x equal to? Divide both sides by 2. So this is
-1/2.
-1/2. Okay, you got it. Okay. Now, if the second factor equals 0, so we have x plus 5 equal to 0. Subtract 5 on both sides, x equal to -5, right? Okay. Again, you get two solutions. Okay. So you have this solution and also this solution. Two solutions. Okay. Now the next one over here. Now, is this a quadratic equation? So I'm going to ask you. Answer here is yes. Okay. So remember, quad has something to do with this square over here. Okay. So this is equation of degree 2. Okay. So it is a quadratic equation. So now we want to solve this by factoring and use the zero factor property. So it's important to have a 0 on the other side. So we're going to subtract 6x from both sides, or think about move this 6x over, become -6x, okay? So we have this 3x squared, and then now subtract 6x. Now we get this side here to be 0, okay? So now we can use the zero factor property. If they multiply equal to 0, so we have to, it's important to have 0 on this side. If they multiply equal to 0, then one of the factor equals 0, right? So either this equal to 0 or this equals 0, okay? So we're going to factor this. So how do you factor this? Anyone? What's the first step in factoring?
Take out the greatest common
Take out
factor.
GCF, yes. Or then take out GCF, okay? So let's take out the GCF. What's the greatest common factor here? Yeah, you got it, okay? So that is 3x, okay? And now parenthesis, okay? Inside the parenthesis, we'll have x minus 2. So we can consider this as the first factor and this as the second factor over here, okay? So this 2 multiplied equal to 0, okay? So we'll have either this first factor here equal to 0, so we'll have the 3x over here equal to 0, or we can have x minus 2 equal to 0, which is the second factor here equal to 0, okay? Solving for x over here, divide both sides by 3, x equal to 0, right? Okay. And then here, add 2 to both sides, x equal to 2, right? X equal to 2. So you got two solutions, okay? So now some of you might think about, might ask this, right? So 3x times x minus 2 equal to 0. Now, some people say, can I consider this as 3 factor? Yes, you could, okay? So we'll have this first factor, second factor, and the third factor. And they multiply equal to 0 over here, okay? So we have 3 factors, okay? So actually we have 3 suspects here, okay? So something happened, okay? So either this guy did it, okay? This factor did it, or this did it, or this one did it, okay? Now, however, the 3 say, I'm innocent. I'm 3, I'm not 0, okay? So he's proven innocent. So 3 is not 0, so he can go home. He didn't do it. The only possibility is either x equal to 0 or x minus 2 equal to 0. And you will get, over here, you get the same x equal to 0, okay? Or x minus 2 equal to 0. So we have x equal to 0 or x equal to 2, which is the same, right? Get the same conclusion, same solutions, okay? Okay, so notice that when you factor, this constant here is not 0, okay? Then you can exclude that, okay? So just concentrate on those factor that has x, okay? Okay, the next one over here. Any question? Am I going too fast? Okay. All right, so next one over here. Okay, this one. X equal to this. Again, this is a quadratic equation, okay? It's degree 2. So x squared, x and this. However, this one here involves those fraction. So we want to simplify this first by get rid of the denominator, okay? So what's the LCD here? 5? Yes, you got it, okay? So LCD here is 5, okay? So we're gonna multiply both sides by 5. So 5 times the left side, 5 times the right side, okay? Now by doing this, we end up with 5x on this side. Over here, 5, you will distribute, right? So distribute over here. Okay, so you get 6 minus 6x squared, right? Okay. So what I have done here is I have 5 times the 6 over 5, then this 5 here cancel, so that will give me 6, right? Okay. And also when you have this 5 times 6 over 5 x squared over here, then the 5 here also cancel, so that will give me 6x squared over here. So that's how I get this 6 here and the 6x squared over here, okay? Okay, now this equation looks much simpler, okay? So it doesn't involve fraction, okay? Now we can solve this, okay? We can try to solve this by factoring and then use the zero factor property. But before we do that, we need to get one side to be 0, okay? So I had to decide to get the left side or the right side equal to 0, okay? In order to use the zero factor property, okay? Now take a look at this coefficient for x squared here. It is -6. So it is negative, right? It have a negative coefficient over here, okay? So I want the coefficient for x squared to be positive in order, so before I do the factoring, okay? Before I do the try and error factoring, I want the coefficient for x squared here to be positive, okay? Now, in order to make the coefficient for x squared to be positive, we can add 6x squared to both sides, or think about that, move to the other side, become positive 6x squared, okay? So we have positive 6x squared on this side. So on this side right now. And now if I have this positive 6x squared on this side, I'll make the other side to be 0. Okay, so this side to be 0. So every term I'm going to move it to the left side and change sign. Okay, so before here it has 5x. So we have plus 5x over here. And the 6 here move to the other side become minus 6. Okay, or think about subtract 6 on both sides. So the 6 cancel and you have a minus 6 on the left side. Okay, now over here there's no GCF, so we go ahead and use and has 3 terms in the form of x squared, x and number. So what kind of method to factor this trinomial?
Trial and error.
Try error. Yes, you got it. Okay, so let's try to factor this. So the 6 here I can try 2 times 3. For the negative 6 over here, what would you like to try to factor this negative 6? Try anything, because try error, you can make mistake, and then you can proceed. So what would you like to try? Okay, I see someone say 3 and negative 2. Yes, you got it. Okay, so we have 3 and negative 2. Yes, very good. Okay, so you can do a quick check. This 2 multiplied is negative 4. This 2 multiplied it is 9. Indeed, they sum up to this positive 5 here, right? So that's right. Okay, and then you can read this. So this is 2x plus 3, and then this is 3x minus 2. Okay, so we have 2 factor. Okay, so if this 2 factor equals 0, then either this factor equals 0 or this factor here equals 0, right? Okay, so if the first factor equals 0 or the second factor equals 0, okay. If this equals 0, what does x equal to? Okay, let's do it step by step then, okay? So you can subtract 3 from both sides. So you get 2x equal to negative 3. And then we divide both sides by 2. So x equal to negative 3 over 2, right? Okay. So in the future, you can actually go straight from this to this in one step, okay? You can do the calculation in your head after practice, you will be able to do it from here to here, okay? Now, similarly for this one, you will add 2 to both sides. So you get 3x is equal to 2. Divide both sides by 3, x equal to 2 over 3. So you got 2 solutions, okay? So quadratic equation, you get 2 solutions, okay? Okay, are you guys good? Now we do something more challenging, okay? So do you guys remember how we factor this trinomial like this, okay? So this one here is in the form of a plus b squared and then a plus b and then number, right? So for this trinomial, what kind of method to factor? You can try error again, okay? So we can use try error, okay? I already put it down here. Let's try error over here, okay? So remember we do it the way, we can go straight to do the try error, okay? So because this one here is the square of this, and this is a number. So now we can factor the 2 here. We factor that into, well, it's a prime number, can only be 2 times itself. So I try 2 times 1. And then for the 3 over here, okay, how would you like to try? Well, it's again a prime number, so only 1 times itself. So, but what will be the order you write this?
3 and 1.
3 and 1, you got it. Okay, good job. Okay, So we try 3 times 1, okay? Now notice that this, okay, and it's 2 multiplies 2, this multiply over here, it is 3. So they sum to this 5 over here, right? Okay, so that's the right try, okay? Now when you read this, then this a plus b squared over here, you will put it down over here. You put it back, okay, when you read the factoring. So parenthesis a plus b, parenthesis a plus b, okay? So the first factor over here will be 2 times a plus b, and then plus 3. Remember to read that horizontally. Okay, the second factor over here will be just 1 times a plus b. So we'll just put a plus b. You don't even need the parenthesis, okay? Because 1 times this is itself, okay? And then plus 1, okay? So plus 1. Okay, now for the homework, they want you to distribute this inside. So you will have this 2a plus 2b, and then plus 3. And then the other one here, it is a plus b plus 1. And then you have factor this, okay? So that's how you do factoring, okay? You got good? Remember this, right? Okay, that's good. Okay, now let's try to solve this equation, okay? Now, notice that the difference between this and this is an equation. So you have this expression over here equal to 0. That's the equation. So you solve an equation. Over here, this is not an equation. What we have done is factoring, okay? So factoring this over here, you're solving this equation. So two different process, okay? But they're kind of related though, okay? Now equation have both sides, left side and right side. It has an equal sign in between, okay? That's equation. So we solve equation, okay? To solve this equation, the first thing we do here, the book will do it, okay? Let's do it the book's way first, okay? So the book will do a substitution, okay? Notice that this x plus 1 in the parentheses is a sum. So the book did a substitution first, okay? So what kind of substitution is that? They substitute this by w, okay? So substitution. Okay, maybe I do it this, okay? So the book's way is to do a substitution. Okay, so substitute the x plus 1 by w, okay? So you get 2w, okay? 2w squared, remember this is a square, 2w squared plus 5w, and then plus 3 equal to 0, okay? It's important to have the other side equal to 0 here, okay? And then we do a try error, right? So just similar to what we have done here, right? So did a try error over here, then you get 2w plus 3, and then times w plus 1, and then that's equal to 0, okay? And then substitute back, okay? And then substitute back. The w over here is x plus 1, so substitute back. So you have this 2 times parenthesis x plus 1, and then plus 3, and then x plus 1 plus 1 equal to 0. So what the step here is we substitute this w back by x plus 1. So this is the book's way substitution, okay? Now, for some of you, actually for me, I like to go straight from here to here, okay? So Okay, whichever way you feel more comfortable. Okay, okay. So I factor this by trying error. I get to this one over here, right? Okay. Now remember we just distribute this, right? So it is 2x plus 2 plus 3, which is 2x plus 5, right? Okay. So this is 2x plus 2. So 2 plus 3 make 5 over here. Okay. So this one over here, we get x plus 2. Okay, x plus 2. Now we got this side to be 0, and this 2 multiplied equals 0. So either this factor did it or this factor did that. Okay, so we have either this equal to 0 or this equal to 0. Let's practice on this. For this equal to 0, what does x equal to? Let's do it one step. What does x equal to here?
-5/2.
Yes. So we subtract 5 on both sides. So -5 and divide both sides by 2. So it's -5/2. Okay. Now for the other one here, substitute, subtract 2 on both sides, then x equal to -2. Okay, so you have two solutions. So this one or this one. So for homework, usually they like you to order from small to big. So this is smaller, this is bigger. So you can put it in this order. Okay, all right. So question. So notice the difference between this problem over here and this problem over here. This problem over here, you're asked to factor this expression, okay? And now you just stop over here, okay? You do factoring, okay? This problem over here, you're given an equation, so you factor that, okay? And then use the zero factor property, and you solve for x over here. So different type of problems, okay? Okay, the next one over here, okay, number 2. So this one here is again a quadratic equation, okay? If you expand the perfect square, you have x squared, okay? Okay, now notice that what happened here is inside the parenthesis, 3x plus 1, these two are the same. And this is the square of that. So let's try to think about, maybe we can use try error factoring, okay? So we want to get one side to be 0. In order to use the zero factor property, it's important to have one side equal to 0. Now, because the coefficient for this is positive, so I want to keep this on this side. And then I make the other side to be 0. So the square on this side and then the other side to be 0, okay? Now this one here, I had to move to this side and change the sign, okay? So that will become minus 6 times 3x plus 1. And then also move this over, become minus 16. Okay, or you think about subtract both sides by 16. Okay, now notice that because this is the square of this, and this is -6 times this, and this is a number, so we can use try error factoring. Okay, so try error factor. So now, because the leading coefficient here, it is 1, okay? The leading coefficient here, it is 1. So it will be the simple case, okay? So we factor this actually into 3x plus 1 times 3x plus 1, right? Because 1 times 1, it is 1, okay? So, and then the last one over here, it is -16. Can you think about two numbers multiplied to be -16 and sum up to -6? So what are the two numbers?
2 and -8.
I heard you say -8 and 2, right? Yeah, you got it. Good job. So -8 and 2, they multiply to be -16, and then they sum to -6, okay? Now over here, we can just go ahead and go straight to factoring, okay? So this will be So we have this. Now we're going to simplify. Okay. So this is 3x minus 7. This is 3x plus 3. Okay, equal to 0. You can go ahead and use the 0 factor property, right? So we can either have this equal to 0 or this equal to 0, right? Okay. If I have this equal to 0, what does x equal to?
7/3.
7 over 3, right? And if I have this equal to 0, x equal to?
-1.
-1, you got it, okay? So -1. Okay, so you got two solutions, okay? Okay, now this one over here. So first of all, let's get one side to be 0. So the square on this side. So I'm going to keep this on the side because it has positive coefficient, okay? And now I'm going to move this over, become minus 6 times this, okay? So minus 6 times 3x minus 1, and then also move this over, become minus 3. So I get one, so I get the other side to be 0. Do you think I can use try error right now? I cannot use try error over here because you see what happened? They're not exactly the same inside the parenthesis. This is addition and this one here it is subtraction. They're not the same. So what should I do? What would you like to do? Okay, so since I cannot use try error directly right now, I will expand this, okay? Multiply out. So expand this, we're going to use the perfect square formula, okay? So over here, this, we're going to use the perfect square formula. Okay, so use the perfect square formula. Okay, everyone, tell me what do I get if I expand this perfect square? Okay, someone asked, can you make this to be positive? If you distribute here, the actually that might be something interesting approach. You can make it positive, yeah. So maybe I can make it positive. Later on, I will subtract it back. Yeah, that might work. That's a very interesting approach. I never thought about that before. Okay, so you can make this positive, but when you make this positive, so you're adding 1. So inside the -1, when you distribute over here, then you're actually making, you have to subtract back. Okay, subtract back some number. Okay, so that's interesting. Okay, okay. Now over here, so let's expand this using the perfect square formula right now. Okay. So expand this, we get square the first. So we got 9x squared, okay? And then adding, okay, adding what? 2 times the first times the last, right? So 2 times 3x times 1 will be 6x. So then we have 6x over here. And the last one always plus, so plus the square of this is this 1. So we expand this, use the perfect square formula. So we get this 3 chains over here, okay? Okay, now for this one over here, why now let's just distribute this, okay? So distribute here, so become minus 18x, and then negative times negative is positive, so adding 6. And then now -3 equal to 0, okay? All right, Now, after this, you can see that we need is a quadratic equation, right? Okay. Now we're going to combine line chains, okay? So we have 9x squared, okay? So combine line chain over here, okay? So you have this 6x minus 18x. So you have minus 12x. And then you have this adding 1, adding 6, and then minus 3. So which is going to be 4. So plus 4 equal to 0. Okay. Okay. Now we got a simple quadratic equation. Okay. Now look at this one over here. This one has 3 terms, x squared, x a number. So what kind of method would you like to factor this? Remember 3 terms in the form x squared, x a number. You have two different ways you can consider, right? So you can consider using try error, or you can consider perfect square. So does this look like a perfect square to you guys? What do you think? Yes or no? Does it look like a perfect square trinomial to you guys? Do you think it can be factored? Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Yes. Okay. Some of you say yes in the chat. Okay. So let's try to use the perfect square factoring. Okay. So because I noticed that the first one here, it is a square. I also noticed the last one here is a square. So this kind of hopeful that might be a perfect square. So let's check this out. So we have this is square of 3x. This is square of 2. And then we check the middle. So we have 2 times the base of this and the base of that, right? So 2 times 3x times 2. Well, it turned out to be exactly this 12x over here. So indeed, this is a perfect square trinomial, okay? So we can factor that into perfect square, okay? So what perfect square is that one? So we put down this the base and the base, which is 3x here and 2 over here. Now, because in between over here, it is this, what color should I use? There's too many choice. In between over here, it is a minus over here. Okay, this minus over here. So this will be minus, okay? The same sign as that one, okay? Okay, so you factor this trinomial into perfect square, okay? Because we recognize that it is a perfect square. So that equal to 0, okay? Now some of you say, can I use try error? You can also use try error, okay? So this method over here, I used perfect square factoring, okay? And the other one over here, I can use try and error factoring, okay? Okay, so I'm gonna do it both ways so we can compare them, okay? So you have this sum equation over here. If I somehow don't recognize it's a perfect square and I use try and error, then what happened? Well, so the 9 over here, I can try 3 times 3, right? And then the 4 over here, I can try 2 times 2. However, because this is minus, right? Because this is subtracting over here, it's negative. So yeah, you got it. Okay, so it is. I make both of them negatives because I want to sum up the negative. Okay, so and then you can see that if you cross multiply and add, again you sum up to -6 over here. Again, you sum up to -12 in the middle, so that will also work. So you will have this 3x minus 2 two times. However, because 3x minus 2, because these two are the same factor, right? So you will unite them, okay? Unite them and put it as a square, right? Okay. So these two are the same, you unite them and put it as square. So you end up with the same equation, okay? Now, over here, okay, Now let's continue. So if we have this square here equal to 0, the only way to make the square here equal to 0 is a base equal to 0. So we'll have this 3x minus 2 equal to 0. And solving for x, x will be equal to 2 over 3, right? Okay. So, however, we call this repeated, okay? So this one here, it is a repeated solution. So why is it called a repeated solution? Okay, if you take a look on this side, this 2 multiplied to get 0. So the only possibility it is going to be either this equal to 0 or this equal to 0, right? Okay, so we have this 3x, again, you have this. So again, you get back to the same thing. 3x minus 2 equals 0. However, you see that for this equal to 0, x equal to 2 over 3. For this equal to 0, x equal to 2 over 3. Both of them get the same solution, right? So it's called a repeated solution, okay? So it's a repeated solution over here because the 2 factor 3x minus 2 are the same. Right? Okay. Okay, so that's why it's repeated. Okay. Okay, so you see this quadratic equation over here? It does have 2 solutions. Okay, however, it is this one here repeated, right? So it's going to repeat it. So that's why I have 2 solutions. Or you can say one solution, okay, one solution, but it's the same solution. Okay, it's a repeated solution. Okay. Okay, the last one over here. Okay, question about this? Okay. So this happens when you have the 2 factor the same. So when you have a perfect square equal to 0, you have a repeated solution. Okay. Okay, this is the last one. Okay. So let f of x equal to this. For what values of x is this? Is f of x equal to 10? Okay. So how should we do this? Okay. Now the 10 over here, okay, this 10 over here, it is this 10 over here, it is for this f of x, right? So you're going to replace this f of x here by 10. And they're asking you for what values of x. So you just need to solve for x, okay? So we're going to solve for x. What values of x, right? So solve for x. How do you solve this quadratic equation? You need to get one side to be 0, okay? Now because you have x squared here, so it has positive coefficient, so keep it here, okay? And you will want to have this side, the other side to be 0, okay? So you need to get rid of this 10, you subtract 10 on both sides. So you will, so subtract 10 on both sides. Then you have minus 81, okay? So x squared minus 81 equals 0. Now you're going to factor this, so you can use the 0 factor property. Yeah, so how would you like to factor this? This one has 2 terms. It's a binomial. They have a square here. And then this looks like a square to me too, right? So what kind of formula to factor this?
Perfect square formula.
Difference of 2 square formula, right? Okay, so it is a square subtracting a square. That's called difference of 2 square formula, right? Difference of 2 squares formula. Okay, so it's going to factor, okay, so this is x squared subtract 9 squared. So it's going to factor into, what does it factor into? Do you guys remember? It factor into x minus 9 times what? Remember the different 2 square? The first factor, for all of them, different 2 square, sum of 2 square. Yeah, you got it. Okay. then the first factor will just cover the square right here. So you have x minus 9, okay? And then the second one, you change the difference here in the sum, so x plus 9, okay? So you got two factors. Okay, find the zero factor property. We'll either have this equal to 0 or this equal to 0. So x over here will be equal to 9 or negative 9. So the answer here is for x equal to 9 or negative 9, f of x will be equal to 10. That answers the question. Okay, that's the end. Okay. All right, I'm going to post this on Canvas. I'm going to stop share now. Okay, I'm going to post the note. Okay. Okay, so that's the end of the lesson today. Okay, thank you. Okay, that's good. Yeah, I have students sometimes from France, sometimes from Korea. It's a huge time difference. Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to have you guys, all of you. Okay, yeah, I'm very happy to get to know you guys. Hopefully we'll meet again.